In the last episode, we learned that Kurt Busch would win his first championship in the playoff format. Now, in the 7th episode of this 13-part series, we'll see how the 2010 season would have played out with the playoff system in place. Remember that this is merely just a hypothetical situation. I know they would have raced differently. This is just something for fun. So, with that being said, let's take a look at the grid for the 2010 NASCAR Sprint Cup Series playoffs. Starting off the season, Jamie McMurray would lock up his spot with victories in the Daytona 500 and the Brickyard 400. Perennial Final Four driver Jimmie Johnson would start at the same song and dance he had been doing for the past 7 seasons, with his wins at Auto Club, Las Vegas, Bristol, Sonoma, and New Hampshire. Kurt Busch would once again be in the playoffs, now defending a championship after his wins at Atlanta and Charlotte. Denny Hamlin would rejoin the title fight with his wins at Martinsville, Texas, Darlington, Pocono, Michigan, and Richmond. Ryan Newman's lone win at Phoenix nabbed him a spot in the show as well. Kevin Harvick's resurgence of wins at Talladega, Daytona, and Michigan locked him into the show. Kyle Busch was in with his wins at Richmond and Dover. David Rudiman made it in for the second year in a row due to his win at Chicagoland. Greg Biffle makes it in with his win at Pocono. Juan Pablo Montoya's win at Watkins Glen punched his ticket into the show, and Tony Stewart's win at Atlanta got him the final spot off of wins to make it in. So with 11 drivers winning, it left 5 drivers to make it in off of points. These guys being Jeff Gordon, Jeff Burton, Clint Bowyer, Carl Edwards, and Matt Kenseth. With bonus points from wins, stage wins, and regular season bonus points put all together, the playoff grid would look like this to start. The opening round of the playoffs would take place at New Hampshire, Dover, and Kansas. Starting at New Hampshire, most of the playoff drivers performed well, all finishing fairly close to one another. At the front of the pack, fuel mileage, though, would be the deciding factor over who would score the win. Contenders Tony Stewart and Clint Bowyer would fight for the win. Clint Bowyer would be the first to lock in his spot in the round of 12 with a win. At least, he was before he failed post-race inspection, passing the win off to second-place driver Denny Hamlin. Bowyer would be credited with a last-place finish, putting him in the worst hole of any of the other drivers with only 2 races to climb out of it. At Dover, those near the cut line seemed to only get closer, while those a bit further ahead got away from them, and those a bit below got away from them in the wrong direction. Clint Bowyer basically was in a must-win situation for Kansas, as well as Matt Kenseth, while Tony Stewart, Greg Biffle, and David Rudiman struggled heavily. Meanwhile, up front, Jimmie Johnson joined Denny Hamlin in the round of 12 with a win. All the eyes of the sport would be focused more on the grid at the cut line, though. At Kansas, many drivers' fates were sealed. Clint Bowyer's mid-pack run was far from the needed run of a win that he needed to get in. Matt Kenseth's 7th-place run also was not enough to make up his gap. David Rudiman ran into trouble with Kyle Busch, causing a memorable second run-in. Meanwhile, Greg Biffle would grab a clutch win. With Tony Stewart in the top 5, it meant that Juan Pablo Montoya's championship bid was prematurely ended then. So, with the top 12 reset, the grid would look like this. The round of 12 would run at Auto Club, Charlotte, and Martinsville. After barely making it into the round of 12, Tony Stewart would be the first to make it into the round of 8 with a win at Auto Club. On the other hand, heavy favorites like Greg Biffle, Kyle Busch, and Carl Edwards all ended up outside of the top 30 in the first race. While Jamie McMurray, Kurt Busch, and Jeff Burton all had mediocre runs and could not capitalize on those other drivers' misfortunes, making the grid constrict heading into Charlotte. Charlotte proved to be a difficult race for the playoff drivers, as Ryan Newman would wreck and drivers like Kurt Busch, Jimmie Johnson, and Jeff Burton all would spin at certain points of the race. Even so, drivers like Johnson, Hamlin, Harvick, Kyle Busch, and Jeff Gordon all basically or totally locked in their spots on points. As for who was locked into the round of 8 with a win, it would be Jamie McMurray with his 3rd win of the season. So, with Martinsville left, the cutoff picture was much more clear. The gaps for Ryan Newman and Carl Edwards proved to be insurmountable, as they would be eliminated. And with Greg Biffle's accident, it left a battle for 8th between Jeff Burton and Kurt Busch. Jeff Burton would be the final man to make the final 8. So, with one round to go before the last race, the points reset again, making them look like this. The round of 8 would take place at Talladega, Texas, and Phoenix. Now, every driver would have Talladega as a wild card race, but for some, it was the death sentence for their title hunt.
As he works his way through this traffic, Mike Ford, the crew chief, hasn't said anything. Now we've got a problem, Marty.
Jeff Burton has got tagged from behind, turned into the wall. So far, it looks like he is the only victim.
Stewart would also be involved in a wreck, while Kyle Busch struggled as well. Up front, Kevin Harvick, Denny Hamlin, and Jimmie Johnson all put a huge point cushion between themselves and 5th. The grid towards the cut looked like this. At Texas, just about everything hit the fan. Kyle Busch, Jeff Gordon, and Jeff Burton all had miserable days that they would love to forget.
They're gonna hold you one lap. They said we sped.
Fast.
They said we sped to keep from going a lap down.
You heard it there. They're going to hold him one lap.
They actually changed right sides first. Now they're changing the lefts. Well, I mean, he was going to be a lap down either way. Well, I guess that's a little hand signal given the NASCAR official. Well, I don't know about that.
Oh, hard contact for the 24.
To me, like Burton did that on purpose.
No, it looked like the 24. And they're going to go and talk it out here. Oh, and this is... Oh, we got a fight breaking out.
Yeah, Jeff not happy. Jeff Gordon not happy with what happened there.
Officials stepping in between, but this is far from over. I mean, there weren't even words exchanged.
Meanwhile, 3 drivers locked up their spots for Homestead. Denny Hamlin locked in his spot with his win at Texas, while Jimmie Johnson and Kevin Harvick locked in their spots due to being enough points ahead of the cut line. So with the grid looking like this, the fight for the 4th spot in Miami would come down to 5 drivers at Phoenix. Phoenix would come down to a strategy race once again. Jeff Burton played it wrong. He was eliminated in a must-win scenario. The 4 left fighting were on a razor-thin battle, swapping the final spot multiple times. The 4 of them would all be within 3 points as the race ended. Gordon would miss by 3, finishing 11th. McMurray missed by 2 with his 10th place run, and Kyle Busch would be edged out by 1 point by Tony Stewart after Kyle finished 13th to Tony's 17th. Smoke doing just enough to lock in his 4th Final Four appearance. So, with 267 laps left to decide the championship, the Final Four would be Denny Hamlin, Jimmie Johnson, Kevin Harvick, and Tony Stewart. The title would really only be fought between Jimmie Johnson and Kevin Harvick, though. Hamlin, overwhelmed by the pressure of the championship, would crack and be a non-factor. As for Stewart, he would be quick, but just not the elite level that the 29 and the 48 were at. In the 4th Final Four appearance for Stewart, he would finish 3rd in points for the 4th time. With strategy once again seeming to decide the race, championship contender Kevin Harvick would be involved in a controversial final caution of the season.
Continued. There you see Harvick racing Kyle Busch for position after they've made their stops.
Oh, man, turned him. Oh, man. Is that a misjudgment or is that a turn on purpose?
The yellow would be lifted with 17 to go. All Harvick could do, though, was watch the blue and white 48 drive away from his windshield.
Carl Edwards is going to win the race, but coming through turns 3 and 4, the championship is going to go to Jimmie Johnson. And if you don't think he's going to be one of the greatest, think again.
Jimmie Johnson, in finishing 2nd in the race, would become the 2010 NASCAR Sprint Cup Series champion, his 2nd career title victory. The 2010 playoffs would prove to be the first to match up with the champion from real life. Up front, the Final Four absolutely dominated the 2010 win column, combining for 20 of the 36 races. 2 from Stewart, 3 from Harvick, 6 from Jimmie Johnson, and Denny Hamlin would win a staggering 9 races. Of the 16 playoff drivers, 13 won at least 1 race during the season, with Matt Kenseth, Jeff Burton, and Jeff Gordon being the only winless competitors in the field. Of the top 10 in real life, only Jeff Gordon and Clint Bowyer failed to get the top 10 in this scenario. Non-chaser Jamie McMurray would finish 7th in points, the highest of the real-life non-chasers. But, once again, 5 drivers kept their now 7-year streak alive of competing in every playoff appearance since the start of 04. These being Jimmie Johnson, Tony Stewart, Matt Kenseth, Kurt Busch, and Jeff Gordon. No new drivers made the 2010 playoffs, as every one of the 16 competitors had previously competed in the dance at least once. So, with all of this, I want to pass this on to you. What did you think of the 2010 NASCAR Sprint Cup Series playoffs? Leave a comment down below, leave a like, and subscribe for more great NASCAR content. And until next time, have a good one.